Hey, it's Jay from Pacific Northwest Sports. Hope you enjoy the newest podcast. If you ever want a wall like mine, please check out Green Gridiron. They're an amazing company capable of making any of the helmets you see or any helmet you can imagine. Their link is below and the QR code is right here. As always, you can check us out on any of our social medias. Enjoy! All right, I am here with Mark Mochel. How are you doing today, Coach?
Doing great, thanks.
So I understand you are on the board and the vice president of the Earl Barden All-State Classic.
Yeah, actually, I'm the chairman. I guess I wear the I wear the hat where I get to do everything. We have there's several of us throughout the state that have worked really hard to put this thing on, but I guess I'm the one that puts the most time and energy into it. So, a few years ago, a man by the name of Bill Alexander, who founded the game back in 1994, passed the reins over to me. He had taken us through 25 years, and it was time for him to retire. So about 5 years ago, I took the reins, and here I am sitting in the big chair.
That's amazing. So what is the Earl Barden All-State Classic?
So in the 80s and 90s, there was one all-state football game in Washington. It was all classifications from big school down to the little schools, and Bill and a bunch of his buddies thought it was unfair. Our kids the small school kids would, few of them would get invited and they wouldn't see much time in the game. So, like I said, in '94, they had a game here in Yakima. A man by the name of Earl Barden, who was a local businessman and a football coach here out of East Valley High School, kind of bankrolled them the first year and got them started. And in the middle, they thought that they would get smart and have a 2A game and a 1A-B game, and that was just way too much work. So we went back, and so now we're a 2A, 1A, and a B combined game.
That's amazing. So what's the benefit of the players who participate, and how are they eventually able to get where they are? Is it nominated by coaches? Is there a fan element to it?
So we any kid who was first team all league in the voting by the coaches in their league is what we call nominated. So they are in the pool to be selected. On February 3rd, we have our selections. The West team meets at a coaches clinic down in the Olympia area, and then the East, we meet at East Valley High School in Yakima, and we select 40 players. It's a little bit different how the West selects from the East, but the way that we do it on the East is each league will get at least their number one skill kid and their number one lineman kid into the game. That'll take us through probably about 24, 26 kids, depending on if they all feel every player's worthy. And then after that, our head coach will work with his staff and then the other representatives from the leagues to fill out the remaining roster of 40 players. Now, all those kids that do get selected, we have about 20% attrition in education. So we'll get down into the 30s, and we have a nice list of alternates that we reach out and bring in. And we'd love to have 40 on each side. We know that's probably not going to be reality, and to feed that many boys for a week is a little spendy too. So we generally think we're going to have low to mid 30s when we get to game week. So we have a lot of kids that are going on to play 4-year college somewhere. We have some kids that'll go play 2-year college down in California. And then we do have some kids that this is their last hurrah. So it's really a showcase of our small school kids throughout the state.
Do you have any fear with some of those kids who are going to 4-year colleges that they may not want to play in this game? Or do you think the honor itself is so big that a lot of them accept for that reasoning?
We get some kids that either have preferred walk-ons or they do have scholarship opportunities at some of the bigger schools. And we've had kids that have signed at Wazoo and have had to turn us down. They wanted to play, but their coaches said, no, we don't want you to. But we've had kids that are going to Eastern. We've had kids that are going to Idaho and all the way down to Central and 4 universities in Montana and California, and they all play for us. And so, football's a rough game, and we do get some injuries. Last year we had one. I think the year before, I think we had one. But that's part of the game, and so these kids kind of know that when they sign up to come over, and it's a battle. It's not the Pro Bowl. It's a battle. Last year it was 0-0, and we had to go into overtime, and it was 8-6 was our final, and it was a physical, hard hitting game. So it's like you say, it is an honor to be selected and come on over and play in this thing. And I think that as we get more word out on what we're about and what the week is about, we'll get some of those kids that would traditionally turn us down.
So what's the benefit for the participants playing in this game? I think, some young kids, it's pretty cool to be able to say I made it and now I get to go play more. But as they get older, what do you think they value most in this week they get to spend over there with you guys?
We're all high school football coaches. There's 4 of us that are on the administrative end. We've got 2 of us on the west side, or 2 of us on the east side and 2 on the west. And for 12 months, we're working. And then I have a pool of about 10 to 15 guys that come in during the summer for a week, and they're what we call gophers. And they go for this, they go for that. And they get to spend a week in Yakima away from their wives and get to watch some high school football. Well, I'm not one of these guys, but I am surrounded by Hall of Fame coaches. These guys are the legends of high school football throughout the state. And so, again, about 7 years ago, Coach Alex had some heart issues and actually died on the table in Wenatchee. They had to paddle him back, and they shocked him back to life. And at that time, the guy that was working with him, his name is Mike Lynch. Mike was longtime football coach out at Lind, Ritzville. And Lynch said to me, he said, it's time for the new generation to step up and take control of this game, and that's you. And so I had to take it on. And so I'm surrounding myself with these guys that are legendary coaches, again, in the Hall of Fame. And so really what we're doing is we are building a lifelong experience for these guys. Hopefully they have great memories from their high school playing days, and we just want to add a week to those memories. In the past, it was just a game. We'd show up on Tuesday. They'd practice a couple times a day and stay in the dorms at YVC and be all hot and sweaty because there's no air conditioning. And they'd have 2-a-day practices, and they'd play a game on Saturday and then go home. Now we're bringing them in. We're staying at a hotel. We're doing taking them bowling. We've taken them to the movies. This year we're going to a Pippins game, which is the Woodbat College summer team we have here in town. Last year we started something new. We did a community outreach. We went down to the Union Gospel Mission and donated a couple hours of our time to go down there, and we did a numerous different jobs down there. So we have a belly flop contest. We have a pizza eating. So it's just it's really an all-star week when you look at these colleges that go to a bowl game and all the fun stuff that they get to do. And, if they go to the hospital, the children's hospital and whatnot, that's kind of what we're doing with our guys too. So when you ask, what are they getting out of this? We're just hoping they have another memory.
That's amazing. That's really awesome to see you guys building the camaraderie of it and just kind of how the evolution has gone year over year. What is something that you wish more people heard about the game and the background on it? You mentioned being able to be more noticeable. Why do you think the game isn't as largely noticed as it should be?
We get kids from Elmira, and if you don't know where Elmira is, not many people do. We get kids from Mossy Rock. We get kids from Linden. We get kids from Chimacum. So we're getting kids from all 4 corners of the state. But they're small towns, and although our small towns travel really well, there's not a lot of people to put the word out about what we're at. So we're hoping that over time that the kids that are alumni and go back to their communities will tell the young guys on their teams what their experience was for us, and we like to get people in the seats. We'll average 1,500 to 2,000 people in the stands, and it almost packs out East Valley. It would be nice to pack it out and overflow it, and just have a lot of people there and enjoy the boys' talents.
So you mentioned earlier how the West versus the East for the nomination works for the game, and you said the West does it a little bit differently. Can you give some insight onto how they pick theirs?
Not real sure. I've talked with my coordinator on the West Side and how they do it, and they have a ranking system. So as their players are nominated and the paperwork starts to come in, each league has a representative. We're under the guise of the Washington State Coaches Association, and so we have a Coaches Association rep in each league, and they rank order the players from top down. So I think when they do their selection, they go to each league and then they'll take players from the top down rather than going to each league and saying, give me your best skill kid and your best lineman kid and so forth. So they do a little bit different than we do, but like I said, last year was 0-0 at the gun, and we had to go to overtime, and so we have pretty similar teams on the field.
So I wanted to mention, you mentioned 1B football, and that's some 8-man. And so I wanted to get your opinion on how easy it is for those players to adapt to the game in a week time frame of, hey, it's not 8-man anymore, it's 11. So this is what you're going to see in terms of your main changes.
In 2016, I was fortunate enough to be selected as the head coach of the game, and we had a kid from Elmira Cooley Heartline, and he came in, and after the first practice, he looked at me and he says, "Coach, this is not my gig. I'm not equal to these guys out here." And I said, "You've got to find." I said, "You are the best of the best of your league. You've got to find what your niche is with our team, how you're going to help our team." And he had such an amazing week. He was a great leader, and he was kind of the glue that kept everybody together. And in those 5 days that we had them, they became their own little family, and that was all due to him. And then when he got in the ball game, I think he had an interception on the day, and he was in on tons of tackles. I like to always say this when the coaches come in. We pitched a shutout that day. It was 27-0 us, and so we were able to hang our hat on that and say you were part of that. And so as teachers and coaches, we have social media with all of our players from the past and whatnot, and he and I still he's one of my contacts on my social media, and I see him on social media, and we'll talk once or twice a year, just back and forth, how you doing. So even the kids from the very smallest schools will find what they can do for us.
That's amazing. So you mentioned this game was kind of passed down to you, and they said, hey, it's time for the young guys to take over, and you did.
And I'm 55. I'm not the young guy anymore. So that tells you how old the old guard is.
So you being the quote unquote young guy, right? What do you think made them comfortable with you taking this over and knowing the game was in good hands?
So I'm a Yakima guy. I've been around Yakima my whole life, and I coached football for nearly 30 years. I haven't coached. I have being 55, I came into kids late. I have an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old in my house, and I put 30 years of coaching in, and so it's time for me to put that time and energy into my own kids rather than other people's kids. But I've been around. I coached at Natchez and Ellensburg and Walluk and Toppenish, and I got the job at East Valley, and so I'd always been around the game. I'd had players that played in it, and the more I showed up during the week, and I was never officially a Gopher, but I was just being in town. I was always kind of around the practices and got to know some people. And when I got the job at East Valley, the football game actually was at Eisenhower High School here in town at Zeffel Stadium. And Ike's not it's not a small school. And so Coach Alex approached me in 2010 when I got the football job at East Valley and said, what do you think about bringing the Earl Barden Classic? Our stadium is named Earl Barden Stadium. So I said, let's do it. And so in 2010, we started the ball rolling with, let's get this at our venue. And if you've ever been to our place, we kind of sit up on a hill and look back into Yakima, into Mount Rainier and Mount Adams. It's just a beautiful setting. And so it's a great small school setting. It's got even better now. We've remodeled our school, and we have a great backdrop. And so it's just home for us. And so over those years where we were hosting the game and I was still coaching, I wanted to put on a class act. And so my assistant coaches were there also being Gophers, whatever you guys need, open locker rooms and getting ice and water and whatever, taking tickets, we're doing all kinds of stuff. So over a few years, Coach Alex and I became really, really good friends. And like I said, he asked me my last year in coaching if I wanted to coach in the game. And that was the last football game I coached as a head coach was the Earl Barden. So from there on, I was kind of in his pocket. He had told me that I was going to be the man to take over from him when he finally retired. And so I was in his hip pocket, learning the ins and outs. And when he had his heart attack and almost went away, it kind of expedited things. And so here I am.
Amazing. How are coaches decided for this? How do you get the coaches to pick on, hey, you're lucky enough to come help us out?
We all have to be members of the Washington State Coaches Association. It's if you're getting this out to young coaches that are out there in the state that are not members, it's $40 a year. There's some great benefits. You get to network with Hall of Fame guys. You get access to a publication that we put out. You get a year pass to any state tournament, district tournament that you want to go to. So you can go to football, baseball, basketball, whatever you want to go to. But the big one on that is you get $3 million of liability insurance. And so $40 a year for $3 million of insurance, and you can't buy that anywhere else. So, so I guess that was my plug for the young guys if they're not there yet to get their card. We've got some guys that have been around. They've coached for a long time, and they've been members of ours for a long time, and we want to be able to build a memory for them as well. So if a guy's on our radar to be a head coach, we'll bring him in as an assistant coach so he can kind of see how the week runs. And then we'll select somebody. This year we selected Nick Sackman on the east side from OMAC, and he gets to bring 2 people with him. And so he's chosen to bring one of his assistants off of his OMAC squad, and then he's also bringing a friend of his that coaches across the river in Okanagan with him, and so and then we actually the head coach at East Valley now is also going to be on staff. So we have a pool of guys that we reach out to see if they're interested in coming. Now they do have to give a week of their summer up. It's right after school, and sometimes the high school football camps are going on that time. So they kind of have to adjust their schedules there. But again, like you said, it's a huge honor for these guys to come in and do this. So we generally don't have too many people that turn us down.
What is your goal for the game and how it grows? And when you look back in 5 years and 10 years from now, what's one thing that you hope has happened and or multiple goals?
My first goal coming into this is I wanted it streamed. I wanted to be able to, if grandma and grandpa in Forks couldn't make it to Yakima, I wanted them to be able to see their grandson play. If we had relatives, brothers that were serving in the military overseas, I wanted them to be able to see it. We had Sela High School in 2000. Oh, I'm going to go back to maybe 2019, a group of Sela students streamed the game for us. It was put on NFHS, and you had to pay $20 or $25 in order to get the game. We used to put it on a DVD, and kids had the opportunity to buy it. And so my first goal coming in is I wanted to make this more accessible to people. And so I was actually approached by a guy out of Wenatchee. He's now in Spokane. His name's Jared Brashears. And Jared has a production company called Skeeter Buggins Productions, and he's in with ESPN Plus. He does like Eastern football and basketball, Idaho basketball. He's been at Wazoo, and he doesn't only do sports, but he does some other things out there as well. But he comes in and he does an online stream for us, and he does it for free. I think people that want a lifetime copy do have to pay for that copy, but he is live streaming the game, so people will be able to watch it in real time online. So that was my first goal. And my second goal, like I said, it was just a game. Now I want it to be an event. I want the kids to come in, and we want to be philanthropic. I want to be able to give back to the community of Yakima. I want the kids to feel like they are superstars. But at the same time, we don't have a bunch of kids that are a bunch of knuckleheads either. Last year, I got wind that 3 of our kids were valedictorians. And so at lunchtime, I wanted to spotlight that. And so as the kids were sitting down getting ready to eat, and I was giving my little spiel, I said, before we eat, I said, I want you to see what kind of people we're in this room with. Will my valedictorians please stand up? 12 kids stood up. So we have 12 kids last year that were valedictorians of their high school. So we have some high quality, high character kids. And so that's really what I'm all about. It's making sure that we have that type of kids showing up to our event. They're great football players as well. But them being good human beings is probably first and foremost in my mind.
That's great. All right, so I wanna be quick with you, so I'm gonna go ahead and do you have time for just 5 quick questions we like to ask everyone?
We got time, no problem. We're at home. We're still stuck at home, so I thought I was going to be at a play practice. My daughter's in a play, and I thought I'd be at a play practice, but nope, I'm good now. You can have me as long as you want.
Perfect. All right, so you're at a gas station. You're about to go for a nice long road trip. What's your go-to snack and your go-to drink for the road trip?
So interestingly enough, 3 days after the game last year, my family and I went out on a 6,000-mile road trip. We hit national parks last year. And so I think we hit 10 or 11 national parks. And we're doing it again this year. We're going to wait a little bit, and we're going to have a month in between. It was a little tough to plan for the trip and the game at the same time. But we're going to go hit 13 more, I think, this summer. So my go-to would be, I'm an iced tea guy. Got to have a little squirt of lemon in there. I don't like sugar in it. I guess it's the bitter. I'm a salt guy, and I'm not I'm a salt guy, not a sugar guy. So I think iced tea, maybe a pepperoni stick, and a mouthful of seeds to pass the time for 6,000 miles is a good way to go.
There you go. Who's your favorite athlete of all time?
I was a huge Georgetown fan growing up, and I was lucky enough to get to the Kingdom when Georgetown won the championship there. And I don't know, I was 11 or 12, 10, 11, 12, and fell in love with Patrick Ewing. And so Patrick Ewing's always been my favorite. I was a Knicks fan, and people would ask me why I was a Knicks fan, and because of Ewing. And it was tough because I grew up at the same time as Jordan, you know. But Jordan always got the best of Pat. Ewing's a lot of posters with Jordan's tongue sticking out at him, and but Patrick Ewing probably on the basketball side. I was a huge McGuire fan, Mark McGuire. Loved the Oakland A's at that time with all the Bash brothers, and then football. I was a Seahawks fan because, you know, being from Washington, you got to be, but I was also a Niners fan. And so back in the day, it was nice and tidy because it was AFC West and NFC West, and you could do both. And now you can't do both. So I'm a closet Niners fan. But you know, guys like Jerry Rice and Tom Rathman and Joe Montana, and, you know, just all those guys from back in the glory days of the Niners are mine too.
I got to speak with Mike Morosky, he's the head coach over at College of Idaho. And we got to have a really good conversation. It's amazing. But he was actually with the Niners when Jerry Rice was over there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was pretty cool talk, just hearing him talk about the work ethic and kind of how you could tell he was going to be the guy. And it was interesting talking to him too, because he mentioned, you know, after Jerry's rookie year, people were ready to call him a bust because he struggled a little bit.
All right. Well, you're coming from Mississippi Valley State or wherever, you know, Christmas tree colors.
Mm-hmm. So it was just amazing to hear some of the stories about that. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, now with the being in the same division, it's a bloodbath now.
Yeah, it is. And then I was a golfer growing up. Tiger Woods is just amazing, you know, and some of his character flaws when he was in his 20s and 30s, kind of almost, how do you blame the guy? You know, when you're that good in the world, you're untouchable. And to get to that state, you look at the best of the best. They are almost untouchable. And so I always had again, not Tiger's character, but the way he was able to dominate the game for those 10 years or 15 years that he was in the game. And then he darn near dies in a car accident and has to have his leg rebuilt, and he's out doing it again. You know, Tiger's pretty amazing too. So I'm a PE teacher and I love all sports, and so I got a favorite all along the way.
There you go. Who's your favorite sports team at the high school, college, and pro level? However, you can't pick anywhere you've coached or anywhere that your kids have gone to school.
That's a good question. So not a kid, but I got a niece. She's a soccer player. She's a freshman at Marquette. So we kind of keep our ears open and eyes peeled for any Marquette sports. The basketball team started out strong this year, and they've kind of faded a little bit. But again, Georgetown, I was a huge Georgetown guy growing up. And actually, one of the basketball coaches, I went to school at a place called Dixie College down in St. George, Utah. Played football for a couple of years. Now it's Utah Tech. And one of the basketball coaches there, his name was Dave Rose. And Dave played on Phi Slamma Jamma. He was the team captain for Phi Slamma Jamma. Now, he was a 6'5" white dude. He was not able to match up with those guys athletically, but it's kind of like that kid from Elmira. What are you going to bring to the team? And we're going to be an amazing group. And what are you going to be able to do for us? And Dave was the coach. He was the captain of that team. And Dave is an assistant coach, young assistant coach at Dixie at that time. I took a couple classes from him, and a brilliant man, great motivator. And I think he finished his career after a pretty long stint as the BYU men's head coach. And so, it's not so much the team that I follow, it's the people that I know along the way that either have kids that go to those schools or people that I've met along the way that are in those schools.
What's your favorite time of year?
Each of them have their kind of what makes them special. The smell of freshly cut grass in the fall, that's good. I love the first snow and being in Yakima. Actually, I went to school at Central, and we could tell who all the West Side guys were because we'd get 6 inches of snow and they'd hang out in the apartments, and we're getting in our cars and driving it. And so we wanted, I love the snow. And so bring on the snow. Summertime, I'm not a heat guy. I weigh over 300 pounds and I don't want all that heat, but I love the water and being in the water. So that's all summertime. And springtime is golf season rolls around and kind of new life and all that. So each of them have kind of their own good, but if I was going to choose one, it'd probably be summertime. Now that I'm long in the tooth teaching, I'm looking forward to retirement with an 11-year-old and 9-year-old. I don't get to retire anytime soon, but summertime is kind of like mini retirement. So I'll say summer right now.
Do you listen to country music by any chance?
Used to back in the 90s, Alan Jackson and all those guys.
So now there's a guy called Luke Combs. He's had a couple songs. One of the songs that I really love is called Doing This. And it opens up and it says, someone once asked me in an interview, what was growing up like? Where'd you go to school? And what would you do if you weren't doing this? So my question to you is, what would you be doing if you weren't doing all this? Do you have another hobby, another dream, another avenue that you could have gone down?
So I wanted to be an accountant. I love crunch numbers, but I took a couple quarters of accounting in college and realized quickly I didn't want to push a pencil for 12, 16 hours during tax season. I started coaching and teaching at that time, and I saw a sparkle in a kid's eye, and that's what kind of set the hook with coaching and teaching. And so I'm in my 30th year of teaching. I coached for 30 years, so I think I found where I was supposed to be. But if I was going to be have another profession, I want to be the PA announcer at the Mariners. Now batting for the Mariners, number 51, Ichiro Suzuki. I just think that would be the best job ever.
I mean, that's great. That's perfect. All righty. So if people want to get in contact with you, how can they get in contact with you?
We're on 3 social media platforms. We're on Facebook. We're on Instagram, and we're also on X. So they can follow us on those platforms. We also have a website, earlbardenclassic.com. They can go there, and we update that. We haven't updated it in a while, but now that we're getting ready to select here in a couple of weeks, we'll start throwing some updates on there and whatnot. And through that website, they're able to get a hold of me. on my email address. There's a button there to click to be able to send a message, and then I'll get right back to them as quickly as possible. So we have several different avenues that they can get in touch with me or us, and again, we're all teachers and we all have lives outside of this, but we're pretty quick at what we do. That's again, we're Hall of Fame. I'm not Hall of Fame, but they're Hall of Fame guys, and that's how they got in the Hall of Fame, is by being good at their job. So we'll get back in touch with people as soon as possible.